Hello everyone! This video is a tutorial on Anki, a flashcard software. First, I assume that you are a total beginner. If you are not, please look at the timestamp below the video so that you can pick the topic you like. Secondly, the primary source of information on Anki is the Anki manual. This video is an attempt to summarize the key points from the manual. Thirdly, this tutorial is not science nor chemistry specific. In fact, some of the note types that we will create in this video are very suitable for studying languages. So, let's start. So, installing Anki. Go to the official website and here we have different tabs for Windows, Mac and Linux. When you scroll a bit more, you will find a list of install problems should you come across any. At first, I decided to install version 2.26 because I thought, maybe not all of the add-ons have been upgraded to the newest version, and I got this message. I failed to create OpenGL blah 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 blah. If you get a message of this sort, please notice there is a link to known issues. In here, you get a description of common issues, and here is the solution for my problem. I use Windows. I actually didn't do that. I uninstalled 1.26 and decided to go for 1.35, and it works great. So another option when you get messages like that is to go for a different version of Anki altogether. And you might wonder if you should install the standard or the alternate version. The link to changes could help you decide. This is documentation of all the changes that have been made in different versions of Anki. When you type alternate, you'll get some info. It does seem that the alternate is for a bit older versions of operating systems. For instance, the alternate version is for 32-bit Windows, whereas the standard version is only for 64-bit. So let's open Anki. First you will see a screen with profiles. You will only see profile user 1. You can rename it if you want to, but I strongly suggest you use only one profile, because you can only sync online one profile. Multiple profiles require multiple accounts, and for that you would need to use multiple email addresses. I will show you how to organize your decks, and that is not by creating multiple profiles. I have few dummy profiles because I've been rehearsing for this video. In fact, let's create another one. Open it, and here we are. We see a default deck which is empty. Let's look at the options at the bottom. Get shared takes you to an Anki website where you can download decks shared by others. Let's say we want to learn German idioms. We can browse the content, and when we scroll to the bottom there is a download button. The file will be downloaded as .apkg, and notice we cannot use it straight away. You need to import the deck to the program. So click the button Import Deck, navigate to wherever you downloaded the file, and now the deck is ready to be used. Notice the default deck disappeared. Actually it is still there but it's hidden, but that's a detail. Next, let's create our own deck. Let's click on it. Notice that the software congratulates us for finishing the deck because we don't have any cards to study from the deck. And that's true because the deck is in fact empty. So let's click the Add button and add some notes. Here we can choose which deck we want to add the notes to. Notice that in principle we can still choose the default deck, and that would make it reappear again, but I'm going to stick to the deck that we've just created. So here we can choose the note type. You will not have image occlusion and LPCG because these are from the add-ons that I use. What I want you to notice is that we have basic note type twice, basic and basic underscore. On your screen you may see basic followed by some numbers or letters, say basic 26TG or something like that. The second basic note type was created as a result of us importing the pre-made deck. Even if the layout of the notes in the important deck is identical to one of the default note types Anki has, Anki will still create a new note type. I think it is to prevent overwriting information, and I'll show you how to tidy it up, because after years of using Anki, you could end up with a bad mess. For now, please choose the note type where it only says basic. And next, let's fill in the fields. This field called tags serves as one of the main ways of organizing cards, and you will not be able to see it during learning. Let's add the tag cat, and let's add another card without any tags, so in a second you'll be able to see the difference. Let's close the window and we can study now. Notice that Anki is asking you when you want to see the cards, depending on how difficult the card is for you. It's called spaced repetition algorithm, and it's powerful if it's run with good settings. Again, more about later. For now, I'm just showing you that Anki works. The shortcut for the buttons are 1, 2, 3, and when the fourth option is available, it corresponds to the number 4. Or you can press enter and it will choose the good answer. To exit the study mode, press the decks button, which will take you to the deck screen. Let's look at the buttons at the top. We already know what the Decks button does. Add, again, will add a card to the active deck. Stats will show you the statistics window, more on that later. Sync will prompt you to set up an account, it's free, and then you can press the button and the cards will appear online on Anki web. When you install Anki app on your iPhone or Android, you will be able to do the cards on your phone. So this is the download page again. Here the author explains that the Anki droid is made by a group of volunteers and it's free, and the app for iPhone is made by the Anki author, Damien, and at the moment it costs $25 lifetime license. I saw some people wrinkling the nose that Damien decided to put a price tag on an iPhone app, but I think people don't realize how much effort it takes to develop, maintain and improve a complex software for 3 different operating systems. And as far as I know, Damien pulled the project almost single-handedly and eventually had to choose his day job or Anki project, and he chose Anki. And I don't know the guy, but I really love him for the things he does. Not to mention that for some flashcard apps, say Quizlet Plus, you need to pay each year because these companies recognize the power of subscription pricing. I hope you get the point. Anyway, let's go back to Anki guide. Let's explore what the browse button does. It takes you to the browsing screen where you can search and edit your cards. Current deck will show you all the cards in the active deck. Below we have a section with a list of all the decks, so you can see what cards you have in each deck. And by the way, here you can see the number of cards in the selected category. Below that we have a list of note types, so you can search the cards according to the note type. And below that there is a section with all the tags. Here we see a tag cat that we added earlier on. We also have tags 1, 2, 3 and so on. These are the tags from the German idiom deck that we downloaded. I think in the description of the German idiom deck it said that the cards are based on some course book, so 1 probably stands for chapter 1. Just a side note, please give tags meaningful names. I guess in our case the names could have been more meaningful. You can ask why we cannot simply create one deck for each chapter in the book. The answer is that Anki is not designed to handle many decks, not more than several dozen. And if you have much more, Anki will start to slow down, especially on a mobile client. However, each deck is designed to hold more than 100,000 cards. This design, which favors big decks, is actually beneficial for learning. It makes learning experience more holistic. With small decks, you can often guess the answer from the context. The fundamental technical distinction between decks and tags is that the tag is only to effectively mark a card, whereas each deck, in principle, can have different learning settings. I'll explain more about it later. There is no clear distinction as to when to use decks and when to use tags instead. However, my tip for beginners is simply make one deck per one university module. But the key is, after the exam is over, change the deck into a tag and move the cards into a bigger deck and revise them from there. With time, you will figure out what gives you the best learning experience. For now, I'm going to quickly show you how to change a deck into a tag and vice versa. There is an add-on that manages tags and makes it super easy, but let's do it in traditional way so that you don't have to rely on add-ons for everything. Deck to a tag. Select the deck, say our test deck, edit, select all, then notes, add tags, say the new tag will be called Tulip, and now all the cards in our deck have the tag Tulip. Notice that it's possible for a card to have multiple tags. They are just separated by a space. Next, we can move the cards to a bigger deck by doing cards, change deck. After doing that, we will only need to delete the original deck by going to the deck screen. Now let's do it the other way around. Let's say we want to pull all cards with a specific tag, say tag 9, and make a permanent deck from these cards. Select the cards, then as before, cards, change deck, we will add some new deck, and then we want to get rid of the tag 9. Notes, remove tags 9. Notice that the tag 9 will still be on the sidebar, so to remove it from there, choose Notes, Clear and Use Tags. In the browsing screen, we also have a preview button, so we can see how the cards look like when we learn them, and we have the browser. I really recommend you read the section Searching in the Anki manual, because I will not show you everything. I added few cards and put them through learning, so I can actually show you something a bit more interesting. So if I type added :1, it will show me cards I added today. 2 will not show me cards added yesterday, but during the last 2 days. So in our case, nothing changes, because I didn't add any cards yesterday. If you type rated:1, it finds you cards studied today, and rated:1:1 finds you cards that you studied today, but for which you answered using the again button. So the first number in the command refers to the total number of days, and the second, how we rated the cards. We can combine searching terms, say is:review, rated:1:1 will find you review cards for which we answered again. You can of course search for words that are on the cards. Anki searches in all the fields, that is, in all the entries, except the tag field, for which you would search using tag:name of the tag. If you type cat, Anki will find all the cards that have cat in any of the fields, but also cats, caterpillar, and so on. If you type w:"cat, Anki will only find you the exact match. Words that are not uniformly formatted, and I often use them myself, are treated differently. It is because from the perspective of HTML, the string of letters that make these types of words is broken up by the formatting. So in our example, w:"name will not work, but if we only type name, it does. Also, for this particular types of words, Anki will only search in a first field by default. So let's break formatting in the word Felice, and you will see no results. But you can change it by going to Fields, click the field you want to search in, and click Sort by this field in a browser. I will repeat, that only applies to words that are non-uniformly formatted. Next, let's find out the difference between a note and a card. So far, I use these words interchangeably, but there is a technical difference between these two. A note serves as a source of information from which the cards are built. When we press Add, what we see is, strictly speaking, a note. But what we see in the browser are cards. So let's say we can create this particular note. It has 4 fields. In the first, we have a foreign word. In the second, an English translation, then audio and a picture. Say from this particular note, we want to construct 3 nice questions. That is 3 cards. For the first card, the program will show us a word in a foreign language, and our task would be to translate. Note, we can tell the program to play the pronunciation when we flip to the back of the card so that we get some exposure to how the word sounds. The second nice question would be to see the translated English word, and our task would be to provide the foreign word. Again, the word will be pronounced when we see the answer. And lastly, the program could only play us the pronunciation of a foreign word, and our task would be to guess what it is and what it means. Just a bit of a nomenclature, the cards which are based on the same note are called siblings. We will shortly make this particular note type, but let's look at some simpler note types first. Let's create a separate deck. Let's add a card and choose note type, basic and reversed card. Let's add a word T in a German translation. Now in the browsing screen we have 2 cards, and when we use preview, we see that one is from English to German and the other from German to English. Let's try some other note type. Let's choose basic optional reversed note type. It works in a similar way, but now we have an extra field, and if that field is not empty, Anki will create 2 cards, and if it is empty, Anki will create only 1 card. In that way, we don't need to switch all the time between basic and reversed note type. Next, let's choose basic, type in the answer, and obviously we need to type in the answer. The last note type that I will talk about now is the cloze deletion. It creates fill in the blank type of question. Say in this sentence we want to put the blank where the numbers are. We can do it in 2 ways. The default way is that we highlight the word and press cloze deletion, or use the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+C, and we get some curly brackets, C1 and C2. That indicates Anki creates 2 separate cards, one that asks for 12 and the other that asks for 4. Now we can do it differently. We can press Ctrl+Shift+Alt+C, and we get C1, C1, C1 each time. There is no incrementation. And when we add that card and go to the browser, we can see Anki creates only 1 card that asks for all 3 blanks at the same time. Now, most people find the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+Alt+C a pain, and there is a way around it. Please look into the description of the video. Now let's make our own note types. First, let's notice that whatever changes we made using buttons, fields and cards, these changes will be propagated to all cards that use the same note type. For instance, if we took some random basic card that we created and added a 3rd field by pressing Fields Add, then all the basic cards will have 3 fields now. Let's delete the 3rd field. You can create a new node type from the deck screen, Tools, Manage Node Types, or we can add a new node type on the fly when we create a new card. Manage, Add a node type. It will ask us on what existing node type we want our template to be based. We want basic for now. Let's give it some meaningful name. Then let's click Fields, rename front and back to question and answer, and add fields picture, comment and reference, and save. Basic node type creates one card from one node by default, and because we based our template on the basic card, only one card will be created. Let's press Cards, and there is a preview section, front and back, and we see that our picture, comment and reference got completely ignored. They do not show on the card, so we need to introduce these fields onto our card. Let's look at the section Card Template. To my mind, it is good to have only question in the front, so that's okay. Let's switch to the back. Notice each field needs to be in double curly brackets, and the names of fields are case sensitive. Now the preview shows what we want, but we have a bit of mess. Anki uses HTML, so I advise you to put BR after each field. BR in the brackets like that breaks the line, so now everything looks a bit more tidy. Front side means that everything that is on the front will be still shown at the back, which I think is great, and this line of code corresponds to the division line on the back card. Here is a section for formatting. It is written using CSS, which is widely used for formatting the look of websites, so there are plenty of resources on that, but you don't need to know any CSS at all. Everything is self-explanatory. Font, font size, alignment, actually I like the alignment to be on the center, and then the font color and background color. You can simply type yellow, blue, but if you are hard to please, like myself, you can find tables with so-called hex colors. The codes are in the format hashtag number or hashtag number letters, and now we have some nice colors. The node type that we created is a simple but really useful node type. Of course, you might be tempted to squeeze everything in a single field at the back, but, and I speak from experience, a presence of a separate field will remind you about putting references. And I can't stress enough how important references are. Without references, sooner or later you'll be like, where have I taken this information from? And then you will start searching. It's such a waste of time. Even if that's something from lecture notes, then put reference, lecture handout, and a page. Regarding pictures, don't put pictures on the front of the card, but on the back of the card. Pictures aid memorization, so it's really good to have them on the card, but that can backfire on you. The mere presence of a picture on the front of the card may trigger memory and help with the answer, which means if the picture is absent, say under exam conditions, you may not remember the information. Next, let's do type in the answer node type. There are two types, one based on the basic node type and the other on the closed node type. Let's start with the basic type in the answer. I know it's one of the pre-made templates in Anki2.1, but that's okay. When we know how to make it, we'll be able to build in that feature into more complex node types. Two fields will do. Let's go to cards and go to the back template. In the curly brackets before the name of the field, we need to type colon. But let's remind ourselves that we want to type in the answer before the answer is revealed. So we have to cut that line and put into the front of the template. And here we go. Now the cloze type in the answer. So let's base our node type on closed node type. On the front of the card template, let's type the following: double curly brackets, then type, colon, close, colon, text. Notice text starts with a capital letter. And now let's close the double curly brackets. For the closed node type, we need to alter the back of the template as well. We need to type the same line. So let's copy and paste that. And now we have what we wanted. Next, let's do cards with hints. Please think twice before using hints. Hints make giving answer easier, therefore you are less likely to recall the information in a real life, where there are no hints. Analyze why you want to use a hint. Sometimes it's because your question is ambiguous, so you simply need to clarify your question. However, there are some applications of hints in linguistic questions that I personally like. Again, we'll do both types, basic and close. Let's start with basic node type with a hint. And the hint needs to be in a separate field, so let's add a third field. Let's call it something sensible like hint. Let's click on the cards button. The hint could be at the back or at the front, but it makes more sense to me to put it at the front of a card. Now to make this field into a hint, type hint lowercase colon in front of the name of the field. Obviously the name of the field needs to be in double brackets. And here is our hint. We can do exactly the same thing and add a hint in a cloze type node. However, with a cloze type node, another option is possible. For that, we don't have to create a new node type. We can simply type the hint after the word or phrase that we want to be missing. Type double colon and the phrase. So what that would do is that instead of the usual 3 dots in a bracket, we will see the hint. So as you can see, the hint can be a verb in a basic form, and our task will be to decide which tense makes sense in a sentence. What is even better is when we combine the hint and a type in cloze. So let's choose the cloze type in node type, and let's type double colon leave. So now we can type head left. So the question becomes more interactive, which is awesome. Next interesting node type is the one that provides an automatic link to a dictionary web page. So say I want to have an English word at the front and German at the back, and once I see the answer, I'll be able to go to the dictionary and look up the word that is in the back field. So let's go to cards, let's click the back template, then let's go to Anki manual, search dictionary, go to the HTML stripping section and copy this line. Notice that it has to have text colon. That basically ignores formatting of the word in our field. Now let's go to the dictionary you like, copy the URL and also paste it. Now let's look at the architecture of the link from the Anki manual. It has 3 parts: the web URL, the field our word is in, and the orange parts that close off the expression on both sides. So in the URL, let's get rid of the word Katze, let's replace it with the field back, and let's not forget text colon. Then let's add the orange parts, and we are done. Next, let's look at how to add sound, or more specifically, words pronunciation to Anki cards. There are 2 main ways. One is to go, say, to forvo.com, download an MP3 file, and then drag and drop it into the Anki field.
Elephant.
Notice Anki creates copy of all media you attach to the cards, so you can delete the MP3 after you downloaded it. The second option when you want to introduce pronunciation to your cards is to use text-to-speech. This feature requires at least Anki2.1.20 or Anki Mobile 2.0.56 for Apple. Anki Droid does not currently support this method. Both approaches have strengths and weaknesses. The main strength of text-to-speech is that it's automatic, but it's bad for reading phrases.
Es tut mir leid.
At least the voices that Microsoft provides sound very robot-like. So now I'll show you how to make a node type that uses text-to-speech. First, if say you want to use text-to-speech in German, you need to have German language installed on your laptop. I have no idea how to do it on Apple. If you have Windows, I will post below a link to their Microsoft support. It is fairly easy. You will have some default voices available depending on the language of your laptop. If you have an English laptop, you will have English voices, so you can use them if you don't want to install anything. So let's come back to Anki. Let's say I want the front of the card to be in English and the back in German, but as I said, I want to hear the German pronunciation when I reveal the answer. So let's go to the back template. Now let's go to the Anki manual, let's copy the line, and when we paste it in the card template, it will show us the list of voices available on your laptop. I will copy the German voice and paste it at the back template, and then before the double brackets closes, type colon and then the name of the field that contains the German word. In our case, it's called German, and we are done.
Hund.
The last node type that I want to do with you is the one that I showed you at the beginning of our talk about notes and cards. For myself, I would do this node type using text-to-speech, but let's stick to the diagram and do it with an audio file instead. So let's create a new node type. Let's base it on a basic reverse type. Basic reverse template is the closest to what we want. If we choose basic, we will have more work to do. Let's add fields, rename fields, add content. And now let's open the cards button, let's add picture and audio at the back, and let's change the second card. Notice that now the front has an English word and the back has German. Again, let's add audio and a picture to the back. Also, I'm adding some BR whenever I need it, so we don't have everything in one line. Then let's add a third card. Let's go to Options, Add Card Type. Now this card shows up as identical to the second card, so let's rearrange the fields. We want audio at the front and the rest at the back. Save and add, and we are done.
Frosch. Frosch. Frosch.
At the end of node type section, I want to add few comments. Don't make complicated node types. The last we did is probably as complex as you want to go. Complex node types can lead to more complex questions or more stuff on the card, but you want the questions to be short and which have relatively short answers. A lot of more complex node types are good for learning languages or field-specific vocabulary, like chemical vocabulary, but in science degrees they have limited application. The last thing in this section is about tidying node types. I already mentioned that after importing pre-made decks, you will end up with many types of node types. The point is, some of these node types will not differ from the node types that you already have, and there is no point in having multiple node types that do the same thing. First, inspect what is the node type layout of the cards you imported. So let's go to the German deck, and now we see that the cards are based in fact on basic reverse node type. So we will change the node type of these cards and then get rid of basic underscore, which is the current node type of these cards. So first step is to highlight the cards. Unfortunately, maybe you remember, I split the German deck and some of the German cards are also in the deck chapter 9. So to highlight the cards, click one deck, hold shift and click the other deck. Notice a formula appeared in the browser that reflects our actions. It has the following general structure: deck, name of the first deck, or deck, name of the second deck. If the name of the deck has space in it, like in our case the German deck, then the deck, and the name needs to be additionally surrounded by double quotation marks. If you hold Ctrl, Command on Mac, then that corresponds to AND instead of OR, and there will be no results. It is because no two normal cards can be in two decks simultaneously. Notice AND does not appear in a formula. It is because Anki assumes AND between multiple search terms unless the user specifies some other searching command like OR. Of course, you can explicitly write AND if you want to. So let's just demonstrate the same thing using tags. I know I have a card that has both tags, cat and tulip, so shift-click gives cards with tag cat or tulip, and control-click gives the one card that has both tags. Also, you can select specific cards using shift and control. So let's come back to tidying our node type. Let's select the cards, then go to Nodes, change node type, and let's choose Basic Reversed. And now when we click on one of the cards and press Fields or Cards button, it will show us that the card belongs to the Basic Reversed type. Now we can go to Decks, Tools, Manage Node Types, and remove Basic underscore. A little bit more interesting case is when we convert between node types that have different number of fields. So let's do the case when the original node type has more fields and you want to have less fields. Perhaps we want to delete the comment field or something. For the purpose of this exercise, let's say we want to change all cards that have the type basic comment picture reference and change it to just basic node type. So we see we can choose which fields to keep, providing 3 fields are changed to nothing, that is, they are deleted. Next, let's talk about deleting cards that come from multi-card nodes. Here we have 2 cards based on basic reverse node, and if we click on one and go to delete, both are gone. We can only delete entire nodes, and indeed the delete option is under node menu. Let's first talk about deleting cloze cards, because I bet all of you will have this problem sooner or later. Say we made 3 cards from a sentence, but now we decide that we don't want the last cloze card. To do that, click on any of the 3 cards and delete the C, colons and brackets. And now let's go to the deck screen and click Tools, Empty Cards. Anki will list the cards that lost data and ask you if you want to delete them, and we do. And now we see only 2 cards are generated from the cloze node. And by the way, to add another cloze card after we added the node is easy, just do it as usual. So let's look at some other types of cards, like for instance the already mentioned basic reversed. Let's do an experiment and see what happens if we delete the content of the field called back in one of the cards. To see the effect, let's do empty cards. Anki will say that one card is deleted. The content of the field called back disappeared across both cards, and the card that had that field at the front of the card is deleted. It is because in Anki there cannot be a card that has nothing at the front. However, as we can see here, we can have a card that has nothing at the back. So how to delete one card from a basic reverse node type? If you think about it, it is effectively reducing basic reverse node type to basic node. And that is the way to go. Just select the node and change node type. By default, the first card will be preserved because the settings are card 1 to card 1 and card 2 to nothing. But if you want to keep the second card, then select card 1 to nothing and card 2 to card 1. Of course, you can easily change the other way around, that is, from the basic note to basic reversed. A super useful tool for deleting cards is conditional replacement. So let's come back to this note that we made. Let's say we realize that sometimes German to English words are similar, and in these cases we want to delete the card German to English. We already know that we cannot delete the card straight away. In cases like that, please use conditional replacement. Basically, it works on the same principle as the basic optional reverse note type. You create an extra field, and the only purpose of this field is to decide if a particular card is created or not. So let's add a field if German to English, then go to cards, make sure that we are on the correct card, and then we need to place condition on the fields that are at the front of the card. Why? Because a card that has nothing at the front is not created. We already said that. The syntax is as follows. The if German to English needs to surround the front fields from both sides. If we had another field at the front called, say, donkey, it would also be between the two if German to English fields. And lastly, we need a caret sign and a // and save. Now let's type something in a field if German to English. For the formula to take effect, we need to go to Tools, Empty Cards, and now we have only 2 cards. We could do it on the other way around. That is, a card would be deleted only if there is nothing in the field if German to English. The syntax is almost the same, just change the caret sign to a hashtag. But in our case, we want 3 cards most of the time and 2 cards only sometimes, and so using caret sign is more convenient. Now we know about cards and notes, so I can take you through the options that we have in the learning mode. First, we can suspend a card or the entire node which the card belongs to. That is, this card plus all the siblings. What does suspending do? From now on, this card will never appear in the learning. It's good for cards that you don't want to study anymore, but you don't want to delete them either. Anyway, you find suspended cards by typing is:\suspended in the browser. To unsuspend the cards, first of course you need to select them, then go to cards, toggle suspended. The shortcut is Ctrl+J. Next we have bury option. Again, you can bury a card or the entire note. It is useful in cases when you reveal the answer by an accident, or you did it too quickly, or you misread the question, or your cat jumped on the keyboard. You name it, accidents happen. In that case, bury the card or the note and it will come back tomorrow with the same schedule options. To find buried card, type in the browser is:\buried. Next, let's move to marked and flagged cards. Both options have identical function. Basically, it allows you to label cards in a learning mode so that you can come back to them later. For instance, you may want to edit the card, or maybe label the toughest cards and later create a filter deck. So let's flag a couple of cards and mark a couple of cards, and let's find out how to find them. So let's start with the marked cards. Marking is an old feature of Anki. As the author points out, marking is mainly left around for compatibility with older Anki versions, whereas flagging is a relatively new feature. Marking affects the entire note, which often you don't want, but flagging affects only the selected card. Marked cards are basically labeled with a tag, and you can see this tag on the sidebar. To toggle off marked, highlight the cards and press Ctrl+K. To find flag cards, type flag, and the number from 1 to 4, depending on the color of the flag you used. Red corresponds to 1. To toggle the flag off, use the same shortcut as you would use to make the flag. In the case of red flags, Ctrl+1. Now let's look at the options that we have when we make a card. Most of them are self-explanatory, but I want to comment on this one, clear formatting. It works perfect for bold or italic or subscripts, etc., but sporadically it might not work. For instance, this button does not remove headers well. So in these cases you need to click More Options and Edit HTML, and you will be able to remove the header. It works both ways, so if you want to add a header, you can type the appropriate HTML here. This formatting does not propagate to the rest of the cards of the same type. Also, each field has its own HTML editor window. Next, let's mention tables. With tables, you run into risk of overstuffing your cards with information. But if you want to create some small table on the fly, you can go to HTML table generator, I will put the link below, create the table you want, and then paste it, and now you can carry on with making cards. Next thing I want to talk about is how to type math equations, symbols, etc. There are two ways, either use MathJax or Latex. I will not go into details, this section is explained extremely well in the manual, there are links to cheat sheets, there is everything you need. However, I made a small comparison table that will give you some overview. So MathJax is mainly for math but also for chemistry. Latex has broader capabilities, you can type musical notation and so on. MathJax doesn't require any setup, Latex does. Now I have Latex because in Anki2.0 there was no MathJax, so I had to, but it's not that difficult. What is really good about MathJax is that it's dynamic, and I'm not really sure whether that's the right word to use, but what I mean is that MathJax is browser-based. There is no problem with displaying it on mobile and so on. Latex has problems with that. You cannot use Latex straight away on mobile. You need to create cards on desktop, and then you need to make Anki display the Latex formula. That would be usually by learning the cards. What it does is that Anki creates an image, an actual image of the Latex formula. This image goes to the media folder, as all images do, and when you sync it online, you will be able to see the formula on your mobile. To avoid the trouble of going through all the new cards that has Latex before you display them on mobile, you can go to Tools, Check Media. So now I'm doing Tools, Check Media, but notice that I am on my account. The reason is that now you can see the option Render Latex, and it only appears if your profile has an Anki account. The dummy profile I was using for this video doesn't have any. Notice that the report will also tell you about any media that comes from deleted cards, so you can check media periodically to make sure you don't have any stuff in the media folder that you don't need anymore. So that's everything I have for you in this video. I hope it helps and I hope to see you in the second part of the video. Bye!